I like things that look good, but I also like things that actually work. Luckily, sometimes you find things that can do both. So today we're talking about aesthetic and functional accessories, stuff that you can interact with daily and that can improve your day-to-day life when you find something that's a good fit. I want to break down 5 of my favorites that mix style and function. It'll be a bit of a mix of things from fashion and tech to things that you sort of interact with regularly and that can improve the overall aesthetics of the space around you. So without wasting too much time, let's get into the first category, and it's something that I've become quite interested in over the course of the past 12 months. Number 1, shoes that don't suck. So here's a recent piece of info that I thought was quite interesting. Research from the University of Kansas found that people could accurately guess someone's traits about 90% of the time just by looking at their shoes. Conscientiousness, agreeableness, even income level, all from shoes. It sounds ridiculous, but it makes sense. Shoes are one of those things where it's a nice blend of form and function. It's a good expression of you, and it's also a good excuse to kind of up your aesthetics and add some extra bit of comfort into your day-to-day life. But for a long time, I didn't share this sentiment. In fact, 2018 to 2024, I basically wore the same pair of Chelsea boots every single day. I wore them to campus, to work, and even when I was out. They were my do-everything shoes, and I was very used to them, so I never truly bothered with anything else. That is until an old professor of mine advised that I get some comfier shoes going into 2025, and that decision ended up being quite a game changer. It made me realize that the shoes you wear on a day-to-day basis can really affect how you step into the day, how comfortable you feel, but also just how you express yourself. Nowadays, this translates to me keeping a regular rotation that I update according to the things I find myself doing. For work, I most frequently stick to a pair of Ons. When I go trail running, I've got my dusty Nikes built for the outdoors. For fashionable fits, I lean on either the On Clubhouse sneakers with their clean lines and minimalist style, or a pair of Timberlands for a slightly more rugged but still fresh look. And finally, for tennis, I keep a few pairs of court shoes ready to go at all times. But don't get it twisted, it's not the brand that matters, it's about the shoe itself and whether they make your life easier instead of harder. If your soles are aching by the time you get to lunch, or if your shoes only fit 1 or 2 of your outfits, then maybe it's worth looking at a bit of an upgrade. Also, don't just buy a pair of shoes because it's on sale. I've made this mistake, friends have made this mistake, and more often than not, that pair of sale shoes isn't really a good pair, and it's not something that you'll get a lot of utility out of. I think it's worth investing a little bit more into something that you're actually going to wear very frequently and that again looks good and feels good. Speaking of which, number 2, a stylish phone case. So if you're like most of us, your phone probably spends more time with you than some of your friends. I'd urge you to just check out your weekly screen time, and it might surprise you just how much time you spend with your phone. Plus, phones aren't exactly cheap nowadays, with brand new phones coming out at eye-watering price points. So that being said, a phone is something worth taking care of with a strong case, but because it's with you most of the time, it can also act as a nice accessory or personality piece. I've seen that a lot of people either go cheap, some sort of flimsy plastic that cracks in a month, or they go overboard in completely the opposite direction and buy what is essentially an armored tank to put around their phone. I'm not personally a fan of either. I prefer a sort of in-between route, because your phone case can say a lot about you. It's an accessory that is always on you, so why not invest in something that is both functional but that also looks nice? Luckily, there are a lot of brands out there nowadays that provide exactly that. Personally, I've been rocking this burger case with these kind of artsy, coffee-inspired colorways that I really enjoy, and since having it, a few people have actually asked if this is a brand new phone, even though it's an iPhone from 5 years ago. So maybe sometimes the best way to make your phone feel fresh is just to get a new case for it. But while we're on the topic of phones, here's something else worth talking about: what you do on them. We already know we spend a lot of time on them, but one of the best ways I've found to make that time both aesthetic and useful is through today's sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is an interactive learning platform that makes subjects like math and computer science actually enjoyable. Instead of just passively watching videos, you're solving little puzzles and interactive problems that teach you as you go. It feels more like a game than a lecture. For me, it's the same principle as the accessories in this video. Things that are both functional and beautiful. Brilliant's design is clean and modern, the animations are smooth, and it actually makes learning feel engaging. I've been using it whenever I have downtime or to just replace endless scrolling. It makes me feel like those screen time hours aren't being wasted because I'm actually training my brain and trying to be a bit more intentional when I'm on my phone. For example, their courses on logic and probability gave me tools I now use when making decisions in everyday life. So if you want to turn your screen time into something more intentional through one simple app, check out Brilliant. You can sign up for free using the link below, and you will get 20% off of Brilliant's annual premium subscription. Now, on to the rest of the video. Number 3, good looking bags. Bags are one of those things that quietly define your daily aesthetic, whether it's work, travel, weekends. They go everywhere you go, but most of the time bags are sort of overlooked as purely functional items. But the right bag can have a big effect. In a practical sense, it helps you to organize things and keep things protected while you're out and about, but when it also looks good, it becomes part of your day-to-day aesthetic. Personally, I rotate between leather and canvas bags, mostly in beige and brown tones, in part because they fit my general look, but also they tend to just age really well. Every scuff adds a bit of character instead of necessarily making it look worn. Some personal highlights include a good messenger bag for daily life and documents, an artsy camera bag for those creative days, and a simple luggage bag for travel, something that feels solid but minimal. The other perk of a good looking bag is that even when they're not being used, they can kind of act as decor. So if you think of a leather bag resting against a bookshelf, or a brown canvas bag sitting in a corner, or even a nice camera bag sitting on your desk, it makes a space feel a little bit more lived in and personalized, and it just adds a bit of extra texture and color. Which also ties in to the next point, number 4. A fashionable cap. Functionally, you can argue it helps to provide a bit of protection from the sun, or it can help to just cover up a bad hair day, but from an aesthetic point of view, caps can be really valuable. It can add sort of a nice bit of color, a nice bit of texture, or just act as a nice talking point. I found that when it comes to talking to new people, sometimes the best way to initiate a conversation is to just wear your conversation. You can wear your personality pieces on you, and when it comes to sort of the logos and the emblems that are on caps, that can tell other people a little bit about yourself. My personal caps are mostly collected from different places I've traveled. Each one tells a story, like wearable postcards that can also act as conversation starters. So whether it's your hometown team or a cap you picked up abroad, don't just think of it as fabric. Think of it as a piece of identity you can wear. Look for a structured crown that holds its shape, go for materials that last, and preferably use neutral tones with subtle logos or stories attached. Which then brings us to the final category of items, books. Yes, seriously. I know not everyone thinks of books as accessories, but hear me out. When it comes to books, they can add a lot of aesthetic value to a space, and importantly, they can really show off your personality based on the kinds of books. Plus, just from a sort of purely functional point of view, books can provide a lot of value. Books can truly teach you things, sharpen your thinking, or help you to understand the world a little bit better. For me, books have always been a relatively low effort way to invest in yourself. You can basically pick any topic and then find an expert who has distilled years of knowledge into something you can read through in roughly 7 hours. Plus, in an era where our attention is constantly scattered, I think there's really something valuable in having an excuse to just sit down and focus on one thing. But even just on the visual side, books can be a subtle but powerful way to design your environment. The colors of the spines, the typography, the way they stack, where you decide to put what, all these little details can make your space feel more lived in, more cultured, and more you. Personally, I like to keep a small rotation, whether it's things I'm actively currently reading or just books that I like to have around, usually in the form of picture books or design books, or just books with little bits of ideas that you can flip through and just get a little bit of inspiration or just some food for thought. They're also just nice reminders to sit down every once in a while, slow down, and either learn something or just enjoy a good story. And I think that ties in nicely with kind of everything I wanted to chat about today, which is that the best kind of accessories are things that look good, work well, but importantly, they fit with your lifestyle, or at least the lifestyle that you are trying to go for. A good accessory makes your day-to-day life a little bit smoother, a little bit more expressive, and importantly, a bit more fun. So for all that being said, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.